Welcome to Missions Life, where we share resources and encouragement for current missionaries, future missionaries, and those praying for missionaries. Missions can be hard, and we want to help you face the challenges of life, leadership, and ministry. We want your life to bear fruit for the gospel wherever you are. I'm Kyle Ferran, here with my co-host and wife, Heather. Welcome. Today on the podcast, we have with us Mandi Vermilyea and Stephanie Kozick, and we'll be taking a time to look at singles in missions, trials, triumphs, and how to thrive. Just a little bit about Mandi and Stephanie. Mandi Vermilyea grew up in Quebec City as an MK. Then God called her to return to Canada to serve with ABW in Montreal in 2016. And over the past 8 years, she's developed relationships with people in her community through various means such as book clubs, teaching English, and volunteering at Meals on Wheels. God has richly blessed those friendships and has given her many opportunities to share his love with others. Her dog Charlie has been instrumental in meeting many people in her neighborhood, and she's also been actively involved in her French-speaking church, most recently with the single women in the congregation. She created a group to provide encouragement and mutual support just over 2 years ago. And as she saw fruits from that group, God laid it on her heart a similar ministry for the single women serving with ABWE. And so she launched Flourish in early 2023 and prays that it will be used by God to bless, encourage, and come alongside the women serving him faithfully all around the world. Stephanie Kozick has lived and worked in Europe since 2008, and she spent her first 9 years working abroad with various ministries in Dublin, Ireland. And for the past 7 years, she's served outside of Athens, Greece, with both ministry to nationals and the refugee population. She very much enjoys connecting with people from many different cultures, learning what she can from those around her. And she also enjoys writing and engaging around the subject of singleness, as she's never been married and is passionate about helping others with the same status thrive as they discover both the blessings and difficulties that come with this gift. Mandi and Stephanie, welcome to the Missions Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, we're looking forward to our conversation today about singles in missions. And before we jump into the questions, could you share just a little bit about your journey into missions?
For me, this is Stephanie. I never thought I'd be in missions. It was not something that I planned from childhood or even was kind of a part of my thought process. It wasn't in my community at church or things like that. But as I grew up and became a teenager, I started going to a youth group at a local church that really emphasized missions. So I went on a mission trip literally every summer. We would go to Mexico. I've done camps in Romania. I've helped in Greece. I've been very different parts of America, doing in the Bronx, parts of Colorado. Every summer, the church made it really accessible for students to go on mission trips. So I would go. I signed up. Still not thinking that had anything to do with the calling on my life or my future. I went to college, graduated with a business degree and a mathematics minor, thinking I was just going to work in business in America somewhere, but still kept going on any opportunities that I had. And the week I graduated from college, I decided now's the time, if I want to go on a long-term trip, to be there for more than 1 or 2 weeks. And I wanted to go somewhere by myself just to see what like normal day-to-day non-team project-oriented missions happened, what happens on a normal Thursday. And so the Lord allowed me to go to England and serve with 2 families with ABWE. And I just lived with them each for 3 different weeks and did life, helped with homeschooling, went to the women's groups, helped with youth, helped with children. Loved it, had a great 6 weeks, still have relationships with those families to this day. That was back in 1998. And came back to America thinking, great, that was my experience. I really enjoyed that, and let's get to work. Worked for several years, had several different jobs, and over the time, the Lord provided an opportunity for me to go to Greece with a singles group that I went with. And while I was there, it was right before the Athens Olympics, and they needed help setting up the evangelistic events they would do during that time, which that's my gifting, details, organization, that sort of stuff. And I found myself, I was laid off from my job 4 days before that trip. So again, the Lord just connected the dots. I ended up staying there for a year and helping them with their projects. And the week I was leaving. My church needed someone to fill in for a year or two as an admin. So I said, okay, I need a job. Let me just do that. Again, one of my main roles was planning short-term trips from middle school, high school, college, singles every summer, and going on a couple of those. And just through those, I kind of realized, gosh, I'm like wired a little bit differently. The things that bothered everybody else, or the things that were didn't quite fit right, or everyone was ready to just get back home, I never quite felt like that. So one day I just kind of told God, look, I think I'm wired differently. If you want me to do this long term, let me know. If you want me to keep doing this short term, that's great too. And within about 3 months, the Lord crossed across my path in a really miraculous way. This team going to Ireland to support national pastors already trying to do the work, but needing just help. They have full time jobs and also trying to pastor these small churches. And the Lord just kept opening the doors. I couldn't even get to the doors before they would open, as far as opportunities, financing. And so that was the beginning, or the middle of 2006. And by 2008, I was living and working in Dublin, Ireland, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's really neat how God got you there when you never thought you'd be there.
That's awesome. It's funny. So I feel like my story started in the opposite direction. So we moved to Quebec, Canada when I was 9. And so I grew up there with my brothers and lived life as an MK. And I pretty much, by the time I got to college, I still loved missions, was very much in support of it, thought it was great, but I kind of had figured that my part in that was done. Like I had sort of
Mm.
got the t-shirt, moving on to something else. And so actually I got a degree in elementary education in college. And so um, after graduating, I taught for several years and I kind of moved all over, different grades, different experiences. After teaching for 3 years in Pennsylvania, I got the opportunity to go overseas. And actually, I taught at GLCA in Lisbon, where you guys are, and
Yay.
loved that. And actually, I forgot my first overseas experience was actually in Bangladesh. I went there for about 3 months and did part of my student teaching there. That was the first time I had ever gone overseas. And then anyway, so Portugal was wonderful as well. And God just gave me some really cool opportunities, but I kind of continued in that same teaching vein for a while. And then had a variety of different jobs and just kind of moved around. I've always liked to just try new things. I'm always up for an adventure. And so it took me a lot of really cool places. But in 2014, I was living in Northern Michigan and working at a Christian camp and retreat center. And I heard about ABWE wanting to open up Montreal as kind of a new
Hmm.
place and maybe open up a team there. And so I got invited to be on this vision trip. And I'm never one to say no to a trip. And I thought, cool, I haven't been to Montreal in a really long time. So I was very excited to go. And I remember thinking just the night before as I'm packing, I'm like, not really sure what I can contribute to this trip. They don't need a lot of help with French because there's a lot of English in Montreal. And anyway, I was like, well, we'll just see. And so the whole point of the trip was meeting up with pastors and other ministry leaders and just getting a feel for what's already happening here in Montreal. And then how could we either partner with existing things or what could be started, that isn't available. And so it was a really neat about 10 days, just kind of getting a feel for the city. And it was funny because I would catch myself being like, ooh, I could see myself here. And then what are you talking about? Stop that. Because in my mind, I was going to go home and life was going to just keep on continuing. And so long story short, by the end of the trip, I got home and God made it very clear to me that I was actually going to be coming back here. And I did not take that well. This wasn't oh Lord, thank you so much for allowing me. I really fought against it for several months. My family and friends can attest to that. And I'm just really thankful God was very patient and tender with me as he helped me see eventually that I know I want to be where he wants me to be. And if this is it, I need to stop fighting it and embrace it. And so I finally did. And he blessed so much. My support came together quickly. And I think it was just in his kindness showing me, I want you to obey me and I will, make the path open up before you. And so I never could have imagined what he had in store for me here. And it's been amazing. I've been here 8 years now and just continue to be surprised and blessed by all the great things that he was preparing for me, and just thankful to be here.
Well, we're really looking forward to unpacking some of these questions for you two today. And with our topic being singles and missions, the trials, triumphs, and how to thrive. The first question I want to ask both of you are, what are some of the unique joys that singles have in serving in ministry?
Steph, you want to go ahead?
Um, I think for me, as I've thought through this week, I think for me it's the ability to connect. I think singles connect with people in in a different way because of their status. I feel like as I've gotten older, especially, I find that we kind of have this friend group that becomes like our family in a way that it doesn't happen in some of my married colleagues. Um, you become their people. You become the aunt or the friend or the cousin or the sister that is not present on the field with them. They've been missing those people back home. I really enjoy the level of just deep connection. I love the flexibility that I have too. Like there's many times that someone's like, "Hey, can you? I'm going to France this weekend for this, da da da. Any chance you're available to come?" And because of my status in life, because of my singleness, and because um, I'm not having to coordinate 4 or 5 other people's schedules with mine, I have the freedom to be able to just jump and go if I have the space in my schedule. I really enjoy that. I enjoy the opportunity the opportunities that I feel like it gives us lots of opportunities to explore, to I see a lot more of I've seen a lot more of the countries that I live in than a lot of my married counterparts have because I'm not tied down by school schedules, things like that. I enjoy just a lot of the flexibility that it entails, and a lot of the relationships and adventures and good times that I've had because of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
I
makes
love that.
sense. What about you, Mandy?
Yeah, what you said, that last word, adventure, that's exactly what I was
Mm,
thinking. I agree. Everything you said is spot on. And I just love that. Um, I think some people tend to think, ooh, of the difficulties of singleness, but it is an adventure. And I mean, I know in my life, God has opened so many doors and so many incredible opportunities, largely because I'm single. And so, yeah, so many things. And I love what you were talking about also about the friendships and them becoming family. And I think it's neat too, even just from a ministry standpoint. A lot of my really close friends are unbelievers here. And
mm,
that's something that we have margin and time for as well. And yes, obviously, I'm hoping that, God will work in their hearts, but just to be able to have those close knit relationships and see how God does bring along people to become family when you're away from those that you love. I think that's a really special thing that sometimes we don't think about. So,
Mm.
and just ditto to everything else Stephanie said.
Good. It's neat to see how God uses that to open doors
Mhm.
for relationships and ministry and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, so those are some of the joys that you guys have faced with that. What are some of maybe the greatest challenges that singles face? And it could be ones that you have personally faced or that you know of. I know you guys work in a context where you're aware of a lot of and have a lot of relationships there. So you can share from your knowledge too. It doesn't have to be something that you've necessarily personally experienced either.
Mm.
I think for me, some of the challenges have been just not a lot of people have gone before me as a single adult, and so there's not like books on what to expect when you're not expecting, or there's like all of there's so many how to or help books, marriage help books and things like that. And there's a lot of books and guides and talks about like how to find a date or how to get rid of this status as quickly as possible. But there's not a lot of resources to like, okay, what if this is your life? What if this is a longer season than you think it's going to be? And so you kind of stumble into a lot of things uh, along the way, and you think, "Gosh, why does this feel this way?" Or am I crazy? I think one of the unique challenges is that I've found and others around me have mentioned as well, is processing through like just what you do with life.
Hmm.
We don't have a natural default, and I know married couples, they don't always process everything with each other. They might have a close friend or a pastor friend or whatever they process certain things with, but there's not a default like safe person that we can talk through things with before we have to face them or as we're facing them. That's been a particular challenge for me. And the Lord has provided, like, I have 3 or 4 different people that I process different things with, but that's been a journey. And I think also, specifically being a single woman, it's kind of finding your place and your voice and a way to express yourself in a way that it's heard. Like, I know being on a field where with all married couples, it's kind of typical for the guys to all get together and talk about what the team,
Mm.
like have a guys coffee breakfast and have a team, this is what our team's going to do, or hey, what about this project coming up, or this person retiring, this is what our team's going to do. And then I find out at the same time that the wives find out, but my unit wasn't represented in the discussion. And
Mhm.
while that wasn't on purpose or a hurtful thing, it's like, how do you find a voice at the table without coming across as a disgruntled, frustrated,
Mm.
overly emotional person? Like, trying to balance that. Where do I fit? Because I'm not a spouse,
Mm.
but I also can't pastor and lead and run churches either. So that this middle ground, that there's not a lot of people that have gone before me that have trailblazed this sort of thing. So those are kind of my two
Mm.
things that I think are some of the biggest things I have wrestled with in every stage of this journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's something that we've tried to have our teams work towards is just that awareness of that and trying
Mhm.
to maybe change some older cultures
Mhm.
on that to be able to include ladies in those type of discussions for those that
Mhm.
want to be in there. So that's
Mhm.
really good. Mandy, what about for you?
Oh, I mean, again, everything that Stephanie said, it's interesting because since I started Flourish, I've had so many conversations with ladies that are serving all over the world and hearing a lot of those same things come back again. And that whole idea of having a voice, I think I don't never want the single guys to feel left out of this conversation, but maybe you can have some single guys on here, and I would love to hear how it's different for them. But I think that there is a particular thing about being a single woman in um, this kind of position, this kind of role, because as Steph said, and it's funny because I feel like both she and I are outspoken. We don't mind, kind of like that trailblazing piece. It sort of comes naturally. But what about some who are more reserved or just, still trying to figure out their place and might not feel comfortable speaking up or just kind of even giving words to that experience? I think that that can be really difficult and frustrating to not be seen. And of course, I mean, we always say it's never malicious, but to just sometimes not feel like you're seen, period.
Mm.
Just as a person on the team, much less as a single woman. And so trying to appropriately have a voice and be involved. And I know, I mean, some of the women that I've talked to, they carry fairly heavy roles and even positions in their teams, like some big pieces of the ministry. And yet, like Stephanie said, sometimes they feel either completely left out of conversations or feel like they're finding out things later that they should have really been a part of a conversation just from a logistics standpoint. So I think there's a lot of that. It can get complicated, but just sometimes it just leaves you feeling left out or just kind of unseen, and that can be frustrating, hurtful, all the other um, emotions you can kind of put in there. But I do think that there is something specific to the single ladies that it just hits different.
Yeah. And just a follow up for both of you there, and you can jump in on this, would be what have been some things that you've identified or seen that have worked well in helping ladies to be able to find an opportunity to be heard more in the teams,
Or
or
advocate for
or
themselves
things
on a
that they
team.
should definitely avoid because it doesn't always go well.
Yeah.
What are some things there that you should lean into or avoid?
I think for me, I have had conversations about this both given advice given to me, and then I've passed the advice along. It's to not address it when you're in the moment a lot of times or in front of a lot of people,
Yeah.
because that often does not go well, because you might be a little bit emotional if you're, especially if it's hurt your feelings or frustrated you. You don't want that emotion to get tangled into the message,
Yeah.
so that your message becomes just is not heard because the emotion just kind of drown it out.
Mm.
So I always try to wait, um, and try to find a way to approach maybe one or two people at a time instead of addressing a whole group of people, and even and posturing yourself in a way of, look, this is how I'm feeling, this is what has happened,
Mm.
and this is what I don't understand what I need to do differently, or is there some way I can be connected into this conversation differently, or is there some way that can you help me, like, can you help me understand? Can you help me understand what's happening, or is there something I can do differently? Like asking for advice rather than coming in with "This happened, and this is what I think you need to do." Because a lot of times we are seeing it from an important perspective. We are only seeing it from our perspective. So a lot of times I've approached something that was really frustrating or something I felt needed to be fixed. But when I had a side conversation with a close friend or colleague, I understood why I wasn't included in that conversation more. And then we could come to a compromise. So it wasn't that my answer was the right one or that it had happened correctly. There was a middle ground we had to come to in the end. So waiting and not addressing it in the moment and posturing it more as a question rather than hey,
Mm.
look, this happened and this is how I feel about it, and this is what needs to not happen again, or this is what we need to do. How can
Mm-hmm.
you approach it as a teammate, as a team player?
Yeah. Kind of coming alongside,
Mm.
understand, and then seeking help bringing them in as a problem solver.
Mhm.
Rather,
Not assuming that they did it on purpose, like
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
assuming that they just didn't have full information, and maybe you don't have full information, and talking about it like that, not as if they knew it and it was this is why it happened, because they didn't want me to be a part of that, or they didn't think about me at all, or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. A phrase that's been encouraging or helpful reminder to me is assume positive intent.
Mm. Yes.
And it really
Oh,
changes a lot.
it does.
So,
I was just gonna say, it's so funny. This is working so perfectly, but I was just gonna say the biggest thing for me and something I continue to learn is not assuming wrong motives. And I read a blog post about that recently, and it really was convicting and how quickly and easily we can do it. Like no matter who we are or what season of life we're in. But I think that's so key because and I think too, going back to some of the things we just talked about, and there can be hurt, you have to guard against bitterness and those things color how we perceive and how it's like a filter that we see things through if we're not careful. And so I really that's been something that God continues to put on my heart to be aware of. Like, don't assume, but also don't be afraid to speak up and be like
Mm.
Stephanie was just saying, speak into that. Be like, hey, can you help me understand what happened? Talking about it's okay to talk about how it made you feel. That's valid, but just being really careful that if I'm assuming something, I'm assuming the good and wanting to figure it out, yes, but just really being, I think, aware of my heart in that. It's been a huge thing for me. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's great. I really am enjoying hearing what you guys have to say. Before we left for the field, when we were preparing to go, and I had little kids and stuff, I had someone tell me kind of sternly several different things to do to be careful not to use and abuse the singles on the field. And
Mm,
I actually, as a married couple, went off to the field worried that
mm,
every time I turned around, I was going to say something to offend a single missionary or to, um, you know, abuse them in some way, like use up too much of their time or assume that
mm,
they had all this extra time. And I actually had one of the ladies then come to me at one point and say, um, I really do enjoy your children, and I really would
mm,
love to be able to help, when you need me. I want you to know that you haven't asked me at all, and I want to help though. And anyways, all to say that I think we do need to have some honest conversations,
Yep.
where,
Yeah.
and what you're kind of saying there is, let's just sit down and have a conversation. This is
Mhm.
what it's making me feel like, but I'm not assuming wrong intent. So I really want to hear your side. And I wish I would have come to the field at the beginning, just wanting to have some conversations, sitting down with some of our, single missionaries and being like, my kids love you dearly and they call you Auntie so and so. And I would love to at times ask you to watch my kids, but I don't want to take advantage of you as a single, assuming that you have all this extra time on your hand. Cause I've heard that before, right? That all
Mhm.
singles can, do so much because they have all this extra time. But I wish I would have had just some great open conversations at the beginning. I think that would have brought about some really good relationships. Um, but with you guys right here, right now, kind of being a spokesperson for singles on our podcast, what are some things that you wish married colleagues, teammates knew and understood, or even that churches back in the States understood? You're supporting churches. Here's your time to tell us maybe some insights.
I can go first on this one. I know Steph and I
Mhm.
have talked about this, and it's funny because so I recently, probably in the last several months, discovered this awesome blog called A Life Overseas. And it has been, they talk about all kinds of different facets of missionary life. Maybe we could even link that in show notes. But there was one in particular about raising support. Um, and as a single missionary woman. And it's funny, I must have received that from about 4 or 5 different people. And then I saw other people reposting it. And I absolutely loved the way that and this was a married woman writing this, but she is a support raising coach for many single women. And you just mentioned, Heather, the importance of just having conversations and talking, openly about things and sharing. And this to me was incredible how she really highlighted some of the real difficulties. And I think that everyone knows support raising can be a challenge and there's ups and downs, but there is something so particular about doing it alone and as a single woman, even more specifically. I hope you don't mind. I wrote down just a little phrase because I didn't want to paraphrase it, but she said, um, talking about women who are raising single women raising support, and they don't get to delegate tasks. If they hate public speaking, they still get to do it. If they're not good at technology, they still have to figure it out. If their pitch is rejected, there isn't really even like that partner to share the burden or the disappointment in it. And I love that she mentioned that we're basically building a support network on our own, and there's unique challenges as single women to even earn respect and attention, not just in the foreign cultures or missionary teams, but even churches in our home country. And that can be surprising. That can be really disappointing. Um, and so I just thought I was so glad that someone put a spotlight on that, because those are conversations I have all the time with the other single women that are serving just with ABWE. So you know that it's far
Yeah.
even beyond that. And I just think we talked about, what do you wish your friends knew? I loved that she said, even if you're not currently supporting your single missionary friend, be an advocate for them
Mhm.
in that support raising. Like, hey, my friend is, and try to help them. I think you could do that for your married friends as well. But that was something I thought was a really sweet idea, and would be really encouraging just to know that other people are trying to help you get
Yeah.
the word out after you've talked to all of your friends and family that where to go next.
Absolutely. I know exactly what article you're talking about, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely link that. And I was having those same thoughts reading through it, being like, wow, Kyle and I got to tag team, and a
Yeah.
lot of times Kyle could get into a church because he would
Yeah.
offer to preach,
Mhm.
and all these different
Yeah. That could
advantages,
be
so to speak.
problematic if we tried that tactic.
Exactly. All the hurdles are higher, is
Yeah.
what the image that came to mind. We're
Mhm.
running through this pre-field race, with standard level hurdles, and it felt like your hurdles are just a bit higher, but that positive idea of letting someone come alongside and advocate, what are some ways that we can brainstorm through this and be supported and not get discouraged. It's a great article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would ditto all of that. I remember the first missions conference I was a part of, like we had the tech person to meet with, the had to get our table set up. That was back when everyone did a huge table all the time. We had to meet with the different small group leaders whose houses we would be at, get all the information. I was there by myself, like setting my table up in the dark at the end, and I'm like, how did everybody finish before me? And then I realized because they had two people like doing it at the same time, and it never dawned on me. I mean, I wasn't like sad and lonely about it, but I was like, am I just that slow? And then I realized I had to go do all of that. I couldn't say, okay, you go do that, I'll set the table. For me, the one direct answer, it's more of a life answer to what do I wish married teammates understood or knew. And the thing that I don't think I realized until probably about 10 years ago is that being a single does not require merely half the life effort of a couple. You feel like, okay, you're half of a couple, so the workload is like half. Well, it's not. It's like two-thirds because rent isn't deducted just because you're one person living in an apartment. Someone still has to pay the bills. Someone still has to grocery shop. Someone still has to do all the cooking. Someone still has to do the laundry. Someone still has to do all the travel and driving, all the correspondence, all your taxes. Also, someone has to work the full-time job. So you're kind of that only person. So, my colleagues would be like, okay, we're having a team meeting at our house. So my wife's going to go home and get the dinner ready. I'll finish up the project here. Well, I'm still finishing up the project. I still have to do all of those tasks on my own unless I order food. But even with that, and I was thinking about that yesterday. I was walking with my family. We were on a hike, and I was just kind of thinking through today. And I thought, even when you travel, hotels and travel companies recognize that singles don't cost half. They cost two-thirds of what a couple costs. It's called the single supplement when you travel. And you pay almost two-thirds of the price that a couple would pay because hotels, restaurants, travel groups recognize that you're not just half the effort. You still take up a whole room. You still take up a whole seat. And so you take up more than just one space because you're one person, even though you're just one person. And I feel like that's something that I've had to even learn, that it's not just half the work, it's more than half the work to be just one person of a couple.
Yeah, I really like hearing that. That makes a lot of sense. Like Kyle and I divide and conquer. Even I think of furlough prep. We divide and conquer furlough prep, but you've got all of that on your agenda and to-do list.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Now, some people in missions, some singles in missions or in ministry missions really thrive. What do you think some of the practices or habits are of the people that really thrive in missions and ministry?
I think, and again, this is probably, you have to nuance this whether you're more a people person or not, but regardless of that, I think relationships are just so key. And I know Steph and I have talked before about, as a single person, you kind of have to weigh, okay, should I initiate? Sometimes it can just be, you can get a little tired, meaning just like a little discouraged about feeling like you always have to be the one initiating, but sometimes we just need to. And reach out and tell that family, hey, would love to hang out, and it doesn't have to be something fancy. Let's just eat leftovers on a Tuesday night. But I think to me, at least, that relationship piece is so important. And so I think that, cultivating that. And again, like I said before, I have great friendships with unsaved friends, and, people at my church and whatnot. But I think just to be real intentional about keeping that relational component alive and well, and doing fun things, whatever it is. But yeah, to me, that's so important, because we can be so busy with all the good things and all the responsibilities, like Steph said, especially because we're doing so much of it on our own. But I think that that's part of taking care of our hearts, and cultivating that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that would kind of tie in with what Heather has been saying about, as married couples, sometimes we're not quite sure. So just that being upfront or just asking can be a way to do that. That's good. Stephanie, anything for you?
I had this same kind of thought about being an initiator. A lot of times we can sit down and think, why hasn't anybody invited me? This especially happened during COVID or when you're new to a field and you're just getting to know your teammates. Why hasn't anybody done this? We have all these expectations and hopes. And when they start to kind of not happen, okay, like Mandy just said, initiate, say, okay, I was wanting to meet this family, or so I'm going to invite them over, or I'm going to say, hey, let's go out and get something. Don't be afraid to initiate, but then also have realistic expectations about it as well. Like you can't be at their house every night for dinner. So the other thing I have learned to do is learn to find things you do enjoy doing when you are on your own.
Mhm.
I love photography. I love things like that. So I've learned to, if I have a day that I'm just know it's everyone's finished with a camp, or we've just gotten back from a traveling or at a conference or whatever, and no one really wants. Everyone just kind of needs a down day. Okay, make a plan ahead of time. Plan if you know you're going to be in your country on your own for a holiday. Don't secretly sit back and hope that something magical happens. Figure out what you'd like to do. Would you like to go somewhere? Okay, find another friend and say, hey, you want to go to this country we've never been to and for Christmas, or do you want to come over here and we do be an initiator, so that you can get things on the calendar, you can get things planned, things you can look forward to, instead of waiting and hoping and then it doesn't happen and you're disappointed. And find things that you do enjoy doing on your own. If it's going to the cinema, or find a local group that does running, or that does hiking, or that does sewing or pottery or music, and find ways to get involved with things you enjoy with people that think like you, but maybe not are within your ministry.
That's really some really good points there. Thanks.
What are some of the mindsets? This is kind of the flip side to that question that Kyle just asked. What are some of the mindsets that can either help or hinder singles? I mean, you mentioned some of the things that can help, that relationship focused and just, initiating and going after things, but maybe some of the mindsets that might hinder singles thriving on the mission field.
This is probably a long list, but I think it would be the long list for any person coming in any status, things that can hinder us. For me, I think it's expectations. Like, recognize what is an expectation and what is a reality. So, like, for me, I've learned the longer I've done this, that you don't have the same closeness with everyone you work with or everyone you're in contact with. So if you are maybe closer with one family or one individual on your field than you are with another family or another individual, that's okay. You're not going to experience the same vulnerability or the same, like, hey, come on, join our family for this, or what, or even other singles on your field. They may not want someone to do something with every weekend, or have that need. They may have a totally different personality, totally different set of needs, and they need to be on their own on the weekends, or they need to have more time on their own. So moderating what your expectations are of other people, and also recognizing that a lot of times I think we almost apologize for the fact that I don't, I'm not married, or I don't have. God has placed us here in that way. It isn't a deficit that I'm one person doing this. God has planned this for me. So don't apologize for that, or feel like you have to correct that or over explain that. Try to realize that God has put you here for a reason, in this specific place, in the specific status, and He's going to equip you for that. So if that, look to Him. Many times something will happen big, and I'll exhaust my whole call list trying to call somebody to tell or to process. And most times in my life, no one answers. And as soon as that happens, I'm like, Oh, wait, maybe I should have talked to God about this first. So recognize that he's the one that has you here.
Yeah.
He's the one that's equipping you. So he's the one with the answers.
Mhm.
It might not be your colleague or your mom or your best friend or finding a husband that will fix this or help with this specific thing you're struggling with. It's the Lord. Go to him and ask him, what's his plan? Okay, Lord, we're here. What is your plan for this time, instead of trying to figure it out with external or internal strength only?
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. That just reminded me of something again, like I've been learning with the Lord is just how, and I think this is obviously something that obviously single people need to learn, but I know married people do as well, is to go to the Lord first and to really know and believe and experience that he's the one that fills up, our hearts. And um I think I've experienced that in new ways even recently. Like as I turn to him first, everything else can become, gravy or like the cherry on the sundae. And I don't come to my relationships out of this huge gulf of need or trying to find, security in friendships or even that desire for a relationship. And just it doesn't mean the desires go away, but I feel like my heart is in a better place to see and receive the care and the love from the relationships I do have, because I'm learning more and more to find the root of that in him. And it's interesting because I feel like it's something that you have to practice and,
Mm.
really be intentional about praying. Okay, Lord, like, and something else you said reminded me of this too, just growing in an awareness, I think, of our own hearts and being
Mm.
able to identify what we're feeling, and taking that to God, and, yeah, there's so much of that, but just for me, that's been something I've really been trying to grow in is finding what I need in him first and really believing that that is there in him, in my
Mm.
relationship with him. And then everything else, it gives me a more grateful heart and a heart that's able to see the other blessings that are there without relying so heavily on them or being so, sad or disappointed if some of those needs or desires aren't met. I'm like, I'm okay because
Mm.
I'm finding, my source is what it should be. And there was something else. Oh, it kind of made me laugh. I heard this recently. People ask, oh, do I have the gift of singleness? And I think sometimes that expression is like really cringeworthy for us. But I loved how this person was like, if you woke up this morning and you're single, you have the gift of singleness. And just the idea of, I loved what you said, Steph, and how if I'm single right now, that's exactly what God has for me. And
Mm.
not only, I'm not waiting around for something. What does God want to use this specific time in my life when I have these freedoms, these desire, all of that? Like that's very intentional. And so what does God want to use this time for? So yeah, just all of like heart and kind of mind perspectives that are helpful.
Mm. Oh, no, that's great. A question that just came to mind right now with some things you guys are saying. Uh, Did you guys, either of you, get any pushback about going overseas, being single? I know the fears that some people in my life had, even
Mhm.
just as we were moving a family overseas. Um, do those fears that people have increase for singles or cause any pressure for you guys?
I think we're both nodding. You can't
Nodding,
see.
yeah.
I can see you nodding, but yeah.
I think for me, I didn't know any other singles like close that were in ministry. ABWE was who I was with first, and they have a strong, especially in Western Europe at that time. There were a lot of women and a couple of guys serving as singles in Europe. Um, so yeah, it was kind of like, are you sure you want to do this by yourself? Or
Mm,
a lot of people were like, well, if you do this, you probably won't ever find someone to marry. And so I had to
Mm.
wrestle a lot with that. Like, am I really nailing this coffin shut? And ironically,
Yeah.
I got asked out more the 6 months before I was moving. Like my support was raised. I was ready to go. I hadn't been asked out on a date in years. I got asked out like 3 times in 6 months from 3 different people,
Oh
and
my.
I was like, "Lord, what is going on here?" But, I feel like it is kind of, people wanna engage about it, like, people don't engage with married couples unless you're going to, I feel like, a dangerous field.
Mm.
Are
Mhm.
you sure you should be taking your family or your
Mhm.
kids to a place like this? But with a single with me, it felt like people thought, "Well, you're just closing the door on being able," and they may not have said it, but it was a
Mm.
theme in some conversations, and not meant to be discouraging, but just like they really thought this might be my saying, "Okay, I don't ever wanna get married," which was not how I felt, which is
Mhm.
not how I feel. So,
Right.
yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Anything for you, Mandy?
I so it's interesting because I'm in Canada, so it's a little different than being overseas and whatnot. But I think that there's for sure. I was even thinking, my family has always been so supportive, and I think that they're just used to me just striking out and doing my thing, and so I'm sure they could tell you there's obviously some concerns simply because I am doing it on my own.
Mm.
But I've always appreciated how they and so many other people in my life have been um, so empowering and so supportive and excited. And I mean, yeah, if there's legitimate concerns, voicing them, but also I've never been made to feel like, I don't know, should you really, and
Mm.
I hear that from other people, or like Stephanie said, sometimes it's not even in words, but sort of like in a response or like, ooh, but um yeah, I think it's funny because even having conversations with girls here at my church, I remember one was talking about the opportunity to go on some short-term trip of some kind, and she said, I'm a little concerned because it was somewhere quite remote, and she said, I'm hoping to meet someone, and if I'm there for a long time, and I tried to restrain myself from jumping over the table at her, being like, no, you can't think this way. But it's funny because I think we do think that way ourselves sometimes. You can get without even realizing it, but if God sends you to some remote place and his timing is for you to meet someone, guess what will happen in that remote place, um but I think that even that we just have to temper, see the desire for that, but also we don't know if it's going to happen, where it'll happen, how, and so just yeah, keeping an open hand to that. And also, I remember every time I've moved a lot, and I literally every time I move, there's someone they'll be like, "Ooh, maybe the guy that God has for you is in fill in the blank." And I'm like, we need to stop saying that because I've moved so many times. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to kind of hold again, and just giving those expectations and hopes back to the Lord and trusting Him with that.
Yeah.
That's
No,
good.
that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I think the you guys had both kind of touched on just a bit ago, just of the expectations. I think
Mm.
Mhm.
that's a message for anyone out there, whether single or married.
Yeah.
Having the right expectations
Mhm.
sets you up either to thrive or to really struggle, because
Yeah.
whatever comes your way then gets through that filter of those expectations, and that's how
Mhm.
you're going to feel about it. And changing those expectations may not change the circumstances, but it does
Mhm.
change how you feel about those
Mm.
circumstances, and that how you feel about it is really what's going to set you up to thrive or to really struggle. And so
Mhm.
that's just such a great encouragement for everyone in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys would like to encourage either singles in ministry with, or those that are praying about going into missions? What would you like to say to those either of those groups?
I think kind of along the lines of what we were just talking about. For anyone that is single and considering missions, just do it. Just
Yay.
I honestly just take a jump. It could be a short term. I know so many people that were like, "Well, I'm not sure, so I'm going to do a short term thing." And next thing you know, God works in that trip and they're now like, "Sure." And then others, a short term thing could be a huge blessing, but you don't feel like that's where God's leading. That's also amazing. And so I just think don't hesitate. Just just do it,
Mm.
and trust that God's going to lead in that one way or the other, but you'll come out of it with an incredible adventure experience, and enriching thing. So I wouldn't hesitate. I guess there's a lot of reasons not to, but don't hesitate. I think just do it. Not an ad for Nike, but
There was a great saying I read in a book that says, "Fear feeds on time."
Mm,
And
Yes.
anytime we allow just that time to hold back,
yeah.
those fears get bigger,
Mm.
and so that's such a great encouragement there. Thanks, Mandy.
Oh,
Stephanie, anything for you?
sorry,
Oh,
Sorry, go
one thing,
ahead.
sorry.
if I can, sorry. I just thought that too, this the idea of we don't know how long this season of singleness is going to last. And so I remember a long time ago reading something that I just don't want to have any regrets, and
Mm.
as much as you can focus on, gosh, I feel like I've been single for a long time. It's taking a long time for someone to come into my life. At the same time, what if you met someone tomorrow that will drastically change everything in a lot of good ways, but like don't waste this time, even though it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I wish it would hurry up and I could move on to another season. Don't waste this, because you'll never have the same kind of freedom, the same kind of flexibility. So yeah, that timing thing, sorry, I just had to, that just popped
That's
into my
good.
head. That's a big thing. Just do it.
Maybe we should have called the podcast "Don't Waste Your Singleness."
There you go. There you go.
You go.
Good.
Uh, for me, even that phrase, one of the reasons I kind of jumped into it is I read the book "Don't Waste Your Life,"
Mm.
and I
Yes.
remember reading that and thinking, I don't want to be. I mean, I was in my almost 30 when I went to Ireland, and I thought I don't want to be 20 years from now still waiting for everything to magically line up. I want to be active now,
Yeah.
and but for me, one of the biggest things is I feel like so many of us get stuck, and I include myself in that category of God's not answering this prayer. God's not answering this prayer for me. And I want to say about 7 or 8 years ago, I was praying through this with someone else who just was praying for a spouse, praying for someone to come alongside them in ministry,
Mm.
and just kept saying, the Lord's not answering, the Lord's not answering, the Lord's not answering. And I remember waking up one morning and just praying for this person and praying for how can I help. And I remember God saying, kind of the feeling in my mind, there isn't only one answer to prayer. Yes, no can be an answer to prayer, and
Mm.
wait can be an answer to prayer.
Mhm.
And if God is telling us wait, like Mandy just said, this is just a season, then he's got a plan for that. It is part of his good. He has good gifts for his children.
Mm.
He has good plans for our future and our to give us a future and a hope. So if this is part of God's plan for me to wait, or if God's answer to this is a faithful, loving no to me,
Mm.
I have got to trust that God loves me so much that there's something I don't know, or something he has prepared for me, that he has knitted me together for, that this is right how I need to be, where I need to be, the
Mm.
status I need to be for this plan or for this fulfillment that he has created me for.
It's sad sometimes when there's a focus on singleness in a negativity, and that's one of the things that I think you guys have highlighted so well today. Just the joys that God's given you, the positives, and some of the struggles, which I think lays out how we can be better praying,
Mm.
be an encouragement. And what stuck in my mind is kind of helping be a conversation starter,
Yeah.
making sure that single women on the field have a voice, but also have an opportunity, have someone that they can bounce their expectations around, that they can get answers or brainstorm ways to have felt needs
Mm.
met,
Yeah.
depending on different people's personalities, needs for the social life, needs for ministry. Just there's going to be a lot of diversity, and we can't lump everybody into the same
Mhm.
category with the same needs, but
Mm.
we have to create space for these conversations, and we really have to, one, have the singles be willing to have the conversations, but I think also for colleagues on a team, be able to just sit down and have some good open conversations. And I think our desire, when I think of all the teams we've been a part of, our desire is to meet needs. And if that means having people in my home, I want to do that. But if that means creating place around the table where they can be a part of the strategic conversations, I want to help that happen too. But as I look over the different singles that we've worked with, I can see all those needs were different. People gravitated towards different things. So I'm enjoying everything that you guys have said. But at the end of every podcast, we like to ask a few fun questions just to wrap things up. So I'm gonna start first. What is something that you've recently read or listened to that you've enjoyed or found helpful?
For me, it's I'm a fiction girl. I want something to like take me out of reality when I read. I love a good
I
crime
agree.
drama or mystery thriller or whatever. But this past year, the Lord just brought a lot of really good biographies of Christian leaders that have either recently passed away or that have just recently wanted to tell their story in a different way. And so I just found myself reading biography after biography after biography. And one that I did not expect to love as much as I did was Elizabeth Elliot's biography that was just written about her life.
Mm,
And it was not a glossed over, like, perfect little life. I mean, she struggled, and it just reading kind of what formed her, how the Lord molded her, how she went into missions and ministry and life with certain um, preconceived ideas of how it would be, and the Lord just gently changed that. It changed her thinking or changed her direction and led her so patiently and helped her through, of course, one of the biggest life trials of losing her husband in such a tragic way. I found that just really encouraging that everyone that's gone before me in ministry, and so many of the others have the same thing. They've wrestled with with things. They've not everything's just been like rolled out in front of them, and they've known what to do. It's been perfect. They've had some hardships. It's been great to kind of read that, kind of take a deep breath and think, okay, I can do this. I can learn, and just be encouraged by what God did in their lives, and look and begin to expect that in a different way, maybe in my own life and in my own heart. When I am met with a wall or a trial or something I didn't
mm,
expect, um, remembering how God worked in others that went before me and expecting Him, waiting for Him, looking for Him to do the same. That's been a
mm,
real encouragement, an unexpected encouragement this year, reading nonfiction and biographies.
yeah. No, I bought that book. I haven't read it yet, so I should put that on my to-do
Read it.
list. Okay. Mandy, what about for you?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned books. I was kind of chuckling to myself because I love to read. I've always been an avid reader, but I am a little over halfway through a master's program. And the sheer number of books that I have had to slash had the privilege of reading has just been a little staggering. So it's funny. My mom just recently had recommended a book, and then she laughed. She's like, probably not the best idea. I've been doing a lot of podcasts actually,
Mm,
just like in walking. I love to walk around the city with or without the dog. And um, one that I've really enjoyed a lot. So I'm a big fan of Jackie Hill Perry. She has just really been a blessing to me, but I really enjoy her podcast with her husband. It's called With the Perrys, and they just bring a lot of really neat insights to a lot of different questions, about life. They've talked about marriage, about singleness, and everything in between. But yeah, so right now I think I'm more in a listening mindset. But I think podcasts are great, and just there's a lot of really great ones out there that just bring, sort of like you were saying, Steph, with books, and just hearing people's experience, be it in ministry or just in life in general. But
mm.
I'm shying away a little bit from extra reading these days, but podcasts have been a good solution for that.
Understand.
Mhm.
So here's another question for you. What activity or hobby do you like to do to stay energized or refreshed?
I like to drive. So I've always loved to drive. And so in Ireland and in Greece, if I know I have like a couple of days that we just have nothing going on, we're all kind of just taking a pause after some big event or whatever, camp season where I work now, I'll Google neat villages to visit within an hour and a half of Athens or Dublin or wherever I'm living, and I'll just plan a little road trip. I'll jump in the
Mm.
car early in the morning. I love to drive, and that's part of the vacation for me, is the driving
Mm.
part. I know some people, it's not till they get there they start to relax. I love the stopping at the little for food to eat on the way, getting treats. I love to plan out what my day will be, and then just taking the road wherever it leads and getting out there, stopping whenever I want to. I love photography, landscape photography. So just stopping anywhere I want to along the way to do photography, and just enjoying getting away. And it doesn't have to be overnight. I go for like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, spend the day, and then get back that night and go to bed. Or if I find a Airbnb, stay for a night. I really enjoy just doing stuff like that, just getting out of my headspace, out of my home, out of my ministry area, and just exploring like a tourist, or like a villager, just wandering around for the day, enjoying a new space I hadn't seen before.
Oh,
So
that
you're
sounds fun. Well, anytime you're gonna pop over to Lisbon, we'll do some fantastic day trips.
Good,
Oh,
you're
good.
you're a
definitely have to.
journey traveler, not a
Oh, yeah.
destination traveler.
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. I was going to say, actually, so I don't, because I'm now living, in more in the city, I don't do as much of the driving, although I love that. But for me, it's been just walking and
Mm.
kind of playing tourist in my own city. And it's funny because I think I think Montreal is so beautiful, and there's so many really neat areas. And you kind of take for granted because you live here that everybody, oh yeah, it's just, but I just love walking around and taking pictures of stuff. And I find I post them sometimes, to my Instagram or whatever, and people are just like, "Oh my word, that's so beautiful." But I think just kind of being a tourist in my own town has just been a lot of fun. And I'll walk certain places, but then turn down this street I've never been. The other day I did that and I was temporarily lost, but that's kind of fun. I mean, I figured it out obviously, but yeah, I think part of it too is feels like the city is waking up again now that hopefully winter is almost done. So more people are out and just wanting to be outside again. But that's always been something that I loved, is just walking around
Mm.
and exploring.
That's great.
Very
That's fun
good.
too.
Not all who wander are lost.
That's
True. I
right.
have a mug that says that.
Yep.
I'm one of those people that if I'm wandering, it's because I'm lost. Trust me.
What's a resource, tool, app, life hack that you found helpful?
That's a tough one for me. I was trying to think about this week. Yeah. I, a tool I've found, and I'm sure everyone does this. I love that you can find how to do anything on YouTube.
Mm.
I recently became a homeowner, and there's in a foreign country where I speak the language, but not house repair. I don't have all the house repair vocabulary, but I love that you can literally find out how to do anything on YouTube. And I've learned how to make substitute ingredients for things I can't find, or I have a lot of plants and stuff in my house, how to revive them from the brink of death. I I know it's probably irritating to a lot of people, but I probably use YouTube at least 3 times a day to help figure something out or learn how to do something in my home, and I just find that really helpful that people have taken the time to show how to do things, mundane things, on YouTube, and I can just kind of follow along, hit pause, and make it happen.
Oh,
That's great.
absolutely.
That could really actually help a lot of singles as they go, and
Absolutely.
because you don't always have a husband there to fix something to be
Right.
able to be
Yep.
confident enough to check the YouTube and see if you can
Figure
do
it
it.
out.
That's right. That's funny. I was thinking kind of the same thing. Also, you're talking about plants. A new obsession kind of was birthed with it during COVID for me, and it is plants, and I am surrounded by them. I love them so much. But yeah, there's a lot of help, available. I also have found different Instagram accounts that are super helpful. A lot of people, there's some shade, and Instagram, can be good or bad, but there's a lot of really helpful things out there. And just following people that are doing repairs. I'm a huge renovation, like home renovation junkie, and I don't do a lot of it for my place because I rent, but I love, shows like that or videos like that. So yeah, I'm a big YouTuber, Instagrammer for those kinds of things too. Just getting helpful ideas and hints and tips.
You guys might have to share some of the plant knowledge with me because I literally, if it's not a succulent, and I have killed succulents, it dies in my house. I blame it on the fact that we travel all the time, but that's
No,
not really it.
it's fine. We can form a little support group for you.
There you go. There you go. That's what's needed. Well, we just want to thank you both so much for joining us today on the Missions Life podcast. This has been a really fun conversation, and I hope is an encouragement to others.
Yeah, it has been just an absolute joy for us to have you guys on and just to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for engaging around the topic and opening up new conversations. It's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And this is encouragement and a blessing to the listeners and help to them. Well, that's all for this show. And we want to thank you again for spending your valuable time with us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider taking just a moment and giving us a great review. Your review will help people find the podcast and allow these resources to encourage more people. If you took something valuable away from this episode, please share it with someone who would enjoy it.
If you'd like to find the show notes, blog posts, and free resources for ministry and leadership, as well as some information on my book, Overflowing, visit kylefarran.com. That's KYLEFARRAN.com. Hope to see you soon on a future podcast.